Roman, can you hear me?
Yep.
How are you, brother?
Good, and you?
Yeah, really well. Really well. Now, I've been waiting for what seems like an eternity to get you back onto a live cast since our very first one, back when you were right in the thick of it with the yellow vest movement and things were just going absolutely crazy on that front. And it seems like a lifetime ago. I'm just so thankful that we've got you back on again. Thank you for making the time to be here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Roman, I always feel when I'm talking to you that I'm on the cutting edge. I'm like right on the fringe of reality whenever we link up. Where do you want to start this exploration today in what we're going to explore?
That's up to you. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, well, why don't we start with technology? I think that's one of the things that can roll onto the rest of it that'll roll out. We'll start with that.
Okay. So what's your question?
Okay, with technologies, what are the technologies that that excite you? What are the technologies that you're involved with that that you feel are technologies that in due course can change the world?
Okay, so one of the first technology that comes in my mind is plasma. So plasma technology is, and yeah, the ancient words that we used to use with alchemy. So there's different type of plasma. There's a physical plasma, there's chemical plasma, there's energetic plasma, and one of the plasma that I no, did we lose you? I don't know if it's still there. Anyway, yeah, one of the first technology that comes in my mind is that plasma technology. It's technology that can have the potential to interact with people's energetic field. So there's a very big, groundbreaking new approach in physics that is moving forwards, and it's related to that understanding of what matter is, that understanding of what physics is, and the mathematics that I'm involved in is now opening a lot of new avenue in the understanding of what this is all about. So I would say that first approach about what is space, what is matter, what is the earth. I mean, I've never really been very comfortable with words, and those type of words always make me feel very uncomfortable. What is the earth? It's a planet. Okay, what is a planet? It's a piece of dirt and water and people and soul and everything. Are we sure it's this? Are we sure is that physical thing? Oh no, it's also Gaia, it's also spirit, it's also, yeah, but what is it? What are we all talking about? What physics is about? What is the substance of an electron? What is the subatomic expression of an atom? Like what this is all about? And the more I was asking questions to people, the less I was getting answers. So I was just starting to get deeper and deeper and deeper into all this. And so that plasma technology seems to be the science of field. It's the science of what inherently humanity is composed of. Like, what is space? What is matter? We have no clue about it. My understanding is that there's field. There's nothing more than field. There's time is a field, and it has like that three-dimensional field, the field of the past, the field of the future, the field of the present. And the way I understand it is that you have that mesh, that past, that future, that mesh, that create that interference pattern that we see as giving this illusion of substance and giving this illusion of echo with matter. And I believe that this is what we seems to call the present. And there's a beautiful man that I'm starting to work with called Michael Evans, which is a legend in the field. I don't know if people heard about it. I recommend people to go on his website, Michael Evans, EVANS. I think it's michaelevans.com. And just watch some of the videos that guy did. Like, he's working in that space for the last probably 40 years, 40, 50 years. And the animation that he did are mind-boggling. He basically developed a theory that the smallest geometry that embeds space is not a tetrahedron. The tetrahedron is like 3 points and a flat bottom, which create the smallest geometry that can encode space. In 3D, in 2D, it's a square. A square is the smallest dimension, but in 3D, it's a tetrahedron. And that tetrahedron dimension was meant to believe to be the smallest way we can encode space. And he actually discovered that there was another way that you can encode space. First of all, by, instead of having straight lines that are connecting the tetrahedron, by having curved line. And by having the curved line, you can actually create a tetrahedron that is imploding or exploding, and therefore creating a different way to encode space. And another way, by just using 2 points, so not using a line, but creating a line above, a line below, and a line behind, you can actually create a smaller version of a tetrahedron, and he called that the triune ray. So the triune ray is composed of 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, creating that kind of rice shape, like you see, like a rice seed, or any form of seed actually has that geometry, which is that primordial. It starts by that dot and then create that thing and coming back like this and create that. So you imagine like 3 points and doing that things. It's like, it looks like a rice seed, and
something like the Vesica Pisces.
So it's what's emerged from the Vesica Pisces. That's a good intuition. When you put 2 circles together, you create that seed in the center, but you need a 3rd circle to create that 3-dimensional seed.
Okay, yes,
so it's a 3-dimensional seed. So you put a circle, a 2nd circle, and a 3rd circle there that create that rice geometry. That seems to be the smallest way we can encode space in creation, which is not futile. It's actually quite important to recognize what is the primordial geometry that can be the puzzle that can create reality. So science is slowly starting to realize that instead of exploding matter and trying to find something, maybe they should come first with a model that will allow them to know what they're looking for. Because until you know what you're looking for, you can spend like eternity looking for something that was just in front of your eyes, but you were not able or ready to watch it or to see it. So I feel that that what the triune array is that intersection between circles, that between bubbles, and those bubbles are what I called before a field. That field of energy where everything that is information, space, vacuum, energy is all entangled in that space. And when you combine those let's see that like a plane of field of information, you starting to create those interference patterns, and those interference patterns allow you to make elements emerge from it. So especially reality. Reality is that thing that we see as an object, for example, or as a person. But what we actually see is the way light is hitting that element, and an aspect of light is absorbed, and another aspect of light is rejected, and that rejection is what we see as reality. So we don't have actually a clue about what we're talking about. We just see the way like 1/3 of light, which is reflected, is hitting my eyes and giving me the illusion of reality. And it's time to now starting to open our consciousness on, first of all, what is those 2/3 of information that are absorbed by matter, which maintain that relationship between what I can observe, what I can feel, and what I can see and experiment, and how we can apply that to our current understanding of creation, so we can evolve in our way, evolve in our perspective and perception of all this. So the technology of field, the science of field, is what is missing in current physics. It's missing because like physics recognize electromagnetic field, but they don't understand that even electromagnetic doesn't mean anything. What is an electron? What is a magnet? Well, they use words without understanding deeply the core essence of what is. Like, what is an electron? Like, show me a picture of an electron in motion. Like, where this is coming from? We are having theory. We think that, for example, electrons are jumping from magnets. Like, where this is coming from? Prove me. Show me how. It's just a theory, basically. It's just theory based on nothing that seems to have a form of coherence, but have a lot of lack in their understanding. In my understanding, a magnet doesn't produce any electrons. In my understanding, a magnet is a sound loop. It's basically a sound that is leaving the north and coming back to the south and producing that loop that goes like those double toroidal thing that create that constant motion. And that loop is through phase inversion, like the loop is going clockwise and coming back counterclockwise. So therefore, they're canceling each other. So we cannot actually see or hear or visualize anything because there's constant balance between the north and the south. So that theory of electrons for me, has never make any sense. Like you put that magnet in front of a coil, and every time that the coil is moving and the magnet is moving in front of a coil, the sound is propelled. And what sound does with a copper coil is basically creating a resonance. And that resonance then will propagate along the antenna and giving the illusion of what we see as electricity, for example. So we call electricity, and because we don't understand electricity, we're going to call that an electron moving through a wire cable. But, well, what if it was just sound traveling through a cable, and that sound couldn't be here because it was canceling itself through a perfectly balanced technology called magnets, where information is aligned north and information is aligned south and canceling each other. So you cannot have a visible, tangible experience of it. Every time you're breaking a magnet, it's going to break up again into a north and south. So you're never going to be able to find it, except if you can put like kind of magnetic, what you call magnetic blockage that will block half of the field and actually going to manifest a centripetal aspect of the force in one side and a centrifugal aspect of the force on the other side. But it's, again, double toroidal field. So one will actually go out, the other one will come in on both sides. So anyway, like in the technological aspect, I think there's big lack of understanding of basic physics. Like magnets is just the most basic things. Everyone is using energy every day, the same way everyone is using money, but no one is asking how money is created, the same way no one really asking how magnets are manufacturing electrons. Like, we have no understanding of that. Why? Because electrons do not exist. They're just an invention, a myth, a word that has been put on a phenomenon, the same way science is putting words on many phenomenons without understanding them. So yeah, this is like on a, let's say, on the scientific perspective. Like the 5G, for example, is another technology that really excites me, because we have a 5G technology that is very disruptive, that is destroying a lot of natural things, but people don't even understand why. They don't ask the question, why the 5G is it hurting people? Well, it's, again, natural laws. It's very simple. A 5G is based on digital information. Digital information is basically square wave. Okay, what is a square wave? When you look at analog, okay, like oscillation, if you put, first of all, in 3 dimensions, an oscillation is a vortex. Again, you're going back into vortex field, into everything that is moving following the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral. So in 2D, an analog signal is actually in 3D a vortex. If you rotate that thing, what you're actually going to see is nothing more than a circle spinning. And a circle spinning actually means like up, down, up, down, up, down, which is in a cellular level, implosion, explosion, implosion, explosion. Let's say this is the explosion, this is the implosion, this is the explosion, this is the implosion. So analog is naturally mimicking every process that life is encoding, like expanding, contracting. So that's something that is fundamentally okay and working. But when you are using square wave, if you had to rotate this square wave in 2D, what you will actually see is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So on the cellular level, if a cell was actually implode, explode, without having a chance to properly expand and contract, you can easily understand that it would produce a lot of stress. and a lot of resistance in the cell. And the more power you're going to send to the signal, the more the stress is going to be high on the cell. So this is not rocket science. This doesn't require a lot of mental processing information to understand that a cell needs to have its rhythm. If you heard about the Rife machine, you may know that you can actually kill cancer cell just by doing that thing, by sending a square wave signal exactly at the resonance frequency of the cell. You have to fine-tune that resonant frequency, and then you have to bombard it with a more powerful signal until the cell, which basically starting to expand and it just explode the same way a crystal glass would explode if a woman or a singer will actually sing the perfect pitch of that glass. It's called like resonance. So resonance is a natural way that information can self-propel. But if it's becoming too powerful, it can actually expand too much, deform too much, and destroy. So the solution actually to increase the amount of quantity of information you want to share without having to disrupt anything to the world is to basically use natural wave, which is analog. And that's that company in England that did that. There's a company in England. Sorry, I cannot give the name. I signed NDA. Sorry, non-disclosure. I have NDA with them. So the company has basically created a software that transforms numerical information into a digital, into an analog signal, send the analog signal the same way we used to send information to watch TV, use analog, and you just have to have a software on your phone that can recombine the analog signal that you receive into digital information using interference patterns through artificial intelligence recognition pattern. So like it's just a basic thing. Instead of sending more information in a square wave, which is damaging the environment and is limited by the way square wave can propagate in creation, because it's not natural. Square wave are not natural. They are designed by human the same way you don't find squares in creation. Everything is curved. The only way you can find straight line in creation is underground. It's crystal. It's called crystals. But outside of the ground, above the ground, everything is curved. Why? Because it's mimicking the natural oscillation of the sunlight, the curve, the analog signal. There's a lot of people who don't even understand the basic nuance between microwave based on oscillation and microwave based on square wave. Like, it's not the same thing. One is respecting the natural oscillation and the other one doesn't. Like the tiny little angle of the square is like hurting the cell systematically. It's the difference between a caress and a smack. Like one is agreeable, the other one is painful. It's just because you have to compensate the lack of gentleness with a lot of strength, and that's what 5G is doing. So the solution is very simple: transform the digital signal into an analog frequency pattern. Send the analog frequency patterns to the wavelengths that doesn't damage anyone. Receive the signal and convert it into digital again using artificial intelligence. And this will cost nearly nothing to be automatically implanted into our current system. So you just need to go to the 3G, 4G, 5G antennas if you want to, put that little box that will convert the signal before, and they will just propel analog signal that will not damage anyone. And then people will just have to download an app on their phone and recombine the information until it would be encoded into the antenna that will receive the message in the next generation. So that's a very exciting technology. Like, this has the potential to triple the amount of information you could send through a 5G network. So 4G was about 20 meg, 5G was about 42 meg max. We talk about 150 megs. So we talk about like more than 3 times what the 5G can do without damaging anyone. So it's a great innovation. It's a great technology. It's a very exciting news. And I wish I would be able to promote this a little bit more. Like, it's just about to happen. Bear with me in the next few weeks. We're gonna be able to properly open the valve and speak openly about this. And I'm really happy already to tell you that technology has been implanted in some countries, and it's a real success. Like, people are really happy with it. There's no lagging. information goes 3 times faster than even the 5G. So we talk about between 6 and 7 times faster than the 4G. And there's actually a huge decrease of volts per meter square that are like people sensitive to, and that's a very exciting news. Are you there?
I am, bro. I am. I was just about to say, in my opening, I said that I always feel like I'm absolutely on the cutting edge every time we speak. Even when we speak privately, I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute, bro. Hang on. I gotta catch up. All right. So you just shared some pretty full on stuff there, and I have a lot of questions. The first question that I need to ask you in reference to the 5G and the square wave and all of that stuff. Okay, so the technologies that are available, or that you will be speaking of more in the coming weeks, and I'm getting in ahead of the curve here to book you in on another live cast to share that with us when the time comes. So what you're saying is technology exists already that can take away the harm that 5G does to the natural environment, to biology around it. So do you believe that the authorities are okay with putting this technology in?
Yes, it seems that the as much as some people believe that there's malicious people in power, and don't get me wrong, I know that they are. I know that they are like sick people, really sick people, but it feels that since a few years already, some of them has been taken away. Like there's still a lot of psychopaths, of course, but a lot of them have been taken away. It seems that those people are not that much malicious. They're just lazy and stupid, more than badly directed. They're just lazy and stupid. They know that we need to get access to more information just so communication can go faster. And they're just too lazy to actually fund research that can actually go in that direction. And just because people just don't understand the basics of how things should work, like how complicated it is to understand that analog is more holistic. It's taking more, like we all know that since the digital world is coming in music, like there's something missing. Like when you hear an old analog album, and when you hear like a pure clean music, there's something missing. And we see that a lot in virtual reality. Like when we show pictures of faces who has been perfectly digitalized, created. Like if you take, for example, half of a face and you basically duplicate it perfectly in a digital way, and you compare that to a normal human face, people 90% of the time would say that the non-artificial face is looking more pretty than the other one. So we have ingrained in our psyche and in our geometry that fundamental principle that perfection can only emerge from imperfection. So you need to have that little imperfection in a face that makes a face exciting, or make a face beautiful, or make a face attractive. If you have perfection is boring. You always need to have a tiny bit of something that would constantly catch your eyes and catch your look. And we know that in a subconscious level. We're starting to discover that in a physical level, and this is actually entirely ingrained into the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is based on that sequence that 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 3 = 8. So you basically addition the past to the present to create the future. So in the beginning was 0, 0 and 1 move, and then 1 + 1 + 1, 1 + 0 = 1, 1 become the future, then 1 become the past, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 you move to the present, 1 become the past, 2 + 1 = 3, so 3 and 2 move into 5 and 3, and so on, and you create that natural motion. When you divide the second number by the first one, it's going to give you what we call the golden number. And the golden number is that ratio that actually define the way everything moves in creation, and especially the spiral way. And you will see that if you go up to infinity and you move that Fibonacci sequence up to infinity, you will get closer and closer and closer to that number, which is 1.618033987 so something. So it's an infinite sequence that can only be reached by root square of 5 plus 1 divided by 2. That's the perfect version, root square of 5 plus 1 divided by 2. But in creation, you will never, ever, 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 ever find that perfect number up to infinity. Why? Because creation is constantly moving. There's a space of crystallization that we call matter, which is the present. And then you have the rest. You have the near future, the near past, you have the far future and the far past. And all that is getting into more and more and more probability. And we see the same thing in quantum realm. Like we have the physical realm, which is tangible, which is structured, which is physical, real, and everything. But the more you go inside of matter, the less it becomes tangible and the less it becomes real. It's become potential. So, like, nature never operates in a perfect way. Perfection is only conceptual. It cannot be natural. It cannot be real. And we need to deal with that. I know that there are a lot of scientists who are still believing that perfection can be reached physically. It is not. It is not. It has never been designed for that. Like perfection is only a mirror image, a myth. Because every time that you're going to create the most perfect circle, every time you're going to zoom into the circle, what you're going to find out is that there's dots. And the more you're going to zoom into those dots, you're going to see that there's like more lines and more dots inside. So perfection is just a fiction. The way the absolute perfection is a fiction. Why? Because we live in a relative reality. If we were living in perfection, then there would be no reality. Reality hasn't been designed to be perfect. Reality has been designed to be explored, to be lived, to be experimented, but not quantified to fit whatever idealistic perfection concept you have in your mind. This is sick. This is sick, and it's make us sick because we're fundamentally natural beings made of perfection into the imperfection, through the imperfection. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I've been taken away in anyway.
No, it's
You know,
good.
when
It's
I'm starting to talk, I don't know where
Dude, I love
it's
it.
going to bring me.
I love it when you're in your flow because I know that the audience is sitting there with their mouth open as well. But what I would like to do is I would like to concentrate now on something very, very important to help myself and the audience to help unpack a little bit of what you just shared. Now, specifically, what I want to ask you, bro, is what you were talking about very early on in the live cast about the future and the present coming together and projecting the past
Future
and the
and
future
past.
coming together and
Past and future.
And manifesting the present, if we can say that. You also were talking about the Fibonacci sequence in a way where past, present, and future. Can you unpack that a little bit in a simpler way so we can understand? Because I feel that is absolutely critical for us to understand truth, reality, all that. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, Fibonacci sequence is that sequence that you have to addition a previous iteration to create a future iteration. So let's say we start from 0, okay? And then we have 0 is, let's say, the vacuum. Vacuum is everything that is. Then 1 is one element of something. Let's say 1 apple, 1 human, one stone, whatever. If you take 1 plus 0, then you're going to create another 1. Okay, so when you combine what was, which was nothing, and what is, which is present, 0 plus, so past plus present, 0 plus 1 equal 1. But so you have 1, you have 0, 1, and 1. Okay, past, present, future. But the future is moving forward. The past disappear, the 0 disappear, and then the 1, which was the present, okay, become the past. So now you have past 1, present 1, past plus present, 1 plus 1 equal 2. So 2 become the future. Then 1 and 1, so the first one disappear, go into limbo. The second one, the present, become the past. 1 plus 2 equal 3. So 2 was the present, become the past. 2 plus 3 equal 5. So now you have 3, that is the present, 5, that is the future. 5 become the present, 3 become the past, 3 plus 5 equal 8. So basically what the Fibonacci sequence indicates is nothing more than the natural motion of time. How time, which is based on the principle of cause and effect, Cause, effect. Past plus present equal future. Cause plus consequences equal reaction. That's very simple. Mathematically, 0 plus 1 equal 1, 1 plus 1 equal 2, 2 plus 1 equal 3, 3 plus 2 equal 5, 5 plus 3 equal 8, 8 plus 5 equal 13. Yeah, 13. 13 plus 8 equal 21. 21 plus 13 equal 34, and so on. And that creates what we call that Fibonacci sequence. I recommend people to just go online and look at Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio, and just eat whatever you can watch. It's going to empower you a lot. This is one of the missing elements of our modern education. We are very familiar with pi. We're very, very familiar with pi, with how diameter multiplied by pi equals circle. And we're very familiar with the circle, which is a very fundamental aspect of creation, because in circle, each point are equidistant from each other from the center. So it's a perfect balance in stillness. That's how I define it. I define sphere and circle as perfect balance of elements with each other in stillness. There's no motion. Okay, when you see a sphere, it's still. A sphere is still. Like if you see a balloon, for example, or a gym ball, you see stillness. There's no pressure. There's flexibility. Whatever you push it, whichever angle you push it, it's not going to oppose any resistance. It's not there to oppose resistance. It's aligned to itself. Okay. If you see a cube, it's much more complicated. Try to roll a cube, and you'll see. Like you have to have a precise angle. You have to push in a specific way to be able to induce motion. In a sphere, it's perfectly balanced. It's in stillness. What we are not aware of is that there's another perfect balance aspect of creation in motion. And this is what the Fibonacci sequence is showing. The Fibonacci sequence shows you that you can create that spiral element that we see in every aspect of the human body. If you take the distance between my finger here, time the golden number, you will get that distance here. Time the golden number, you will get that distance here. Time the golden number, you get that distance here. If you take the distance between my shoulder and my elbow, multiply by the golden number, you will get my elbow to my wrist. That's how the golden number is encoded into my whole body. Why? Because everything that moves in creation, that naturally grow in creation, has to follow a pattern. Duh. Yes, geometry, time has a pattern. It's time for science to recognize it. There's an order in creation. Okay, that just for very basic reason that if there was no order in creation, there would be no creation. That's very simple. If one bloody, whatever you want to call it, electrons, atoms, molecule was not doing what it was meant to do, creation would not be. It would constantly explode. And don't get me wrong, maybe it is. Maybe creation is constantly exploding and at every single fraction of instant until they find the perfect matching thing that will allow time to move forward. But as we're never aware of it, because we only live the experience linearly of being present, then it's happening and we don't know. We just don't know. We may eventually constantly explode, and until we find that crystalline balance between that which goes out and that which comes in, and give us that illusion of continuity.
What do you mean by explode, Roman? Explain that to the audience.
I explained that in a way that if one single atom wasn't working properly, like if we induce that into uranium, we create nuclear bomb. We only need one single element to be disrupted into the molecular arrangement of creation to create nuclear reaction. Now imagine that out of nowhere, creation was doing that. Imagine that for whatever reason, you're sitting on your couch and suddenly your couch, one single atom of your couch suddenly decides to not do what it was meant to do. Your couch would basically create an atomic reaction. How plausible it is, how reasonable it is to imagine that creation will not be stable. You see what I mean? Like it has to be an order. There has to be an order. Otherwise, creation will not be. That's why it's so complicated to make a nuclear reaction, because it requires so much effort to create chaos. Chaos requires so much energy. Why? Because the postulate of creation is order. Otherwise, there will be no experience of creation. If there was no order, there would be no experience of creation. That's what people don't need to understand. But also what it means is that if there's an order, what the hell are you afraid of? Everything is fucking perfect. Everything is there. You just have to sit down, grab some popcorn, do what you have to do. I don't say, of course, sit down and don't do nothing. I say, fear doesn't have its place. Fear is a disease induced by ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of the natural order of everything that is. And the only reason why modern scientists refuse to admit that is by that very stupid little idea that if they had to admit that there was a creation order, then therefore they would have to admit that there's a creator. And that very stupid idea blocked them from opening their mind to the possibility of an order in creation. Because, they are not creationists. So therefore, matter is devoid of consciousness. It's just a piece of something that they can't even define. They cannot define space. They cannot define mass. They cannot define an atom. They cannot define any of this. Energy, all those words doesn't mean anything at all. But they still use them. It makes them feel smart. They're like, well, I understand things that people don't understand. No, you don't, buddy. You don't. You just makes everyone believe that you are more smarter than you are, and you're just ignorant of your own ignorance. And that's really, really, really upsetting me. So what I'm saying is that there is an order in creation just because of the philosophical fact that if there was no order, there would be no creation, there would be no experience. In a philosophical way, you cannot experiment something if something is not there. So you have first to admit that something is there to be able to experiment it. And therefore, if you're experimenting and if you're aware of your own perception and your own perspective on experience, then therefore you have to admit that, yes, there's an order. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to experiment anything. That's the basic level of understanding. Now, how this organization is working, wow, thank you for asking the question. Now we're starting to talk about interesting things. How is it combining, how those circles are combining and creating that triune ray that manifests the motion of time and the Fibonacci sequence and the ordering of every living things on creation. How? Now we're starting to talk science. But first and foremost, you need to have that postulate. Otherwise, you're blind. You're just bloody blind. You're just sick because you're looking for something that you don't even believe exists. You don't even believe in your own existence. Otherwise, you will have to admit that there's a creation. And if there's a creation, you will then have to understand that there's a creator. And the huge mistake that the people do is to really associate the concept of creator with the concept of religion, which is the most stupid things to do again. Creation doesn't have to be created by a creator, and especially a creator that is separate from creation. I'm just going to give you an example. Just sit down in front of a board and start to draw something. When you're going to draw something, you're going to create something, okay? But that you create that thing as much as that thing creates you. When you're cooking food, you are cooking the food that is going to feed yourself. And you're going to interact with that thing in a way, so you're going to create that mix of combination of things, the same way you can do that with painting, with words, with ideas, with numbers. We are creating something, and that thing is going to create you as well. It's going to make you expand in your own understanding of who you are. So that idea that the creator can be separated from the creation is pathetic. It cannot happen. Creator is always as much created as the creation itself. So therefore, who is the creator of our creation? Us. We are the creators. There's nothing outside of us. Stop looking for aliens, stop looking for God, stop looking for divinity, stop looking for any of that. I don't deny their existence. I'm saying that they are epiphenomenon of our own creation. We are the creator of that thing. And this is a very scary idea, because therefore we'll have to admit that there's a responsibility. So we are living in a world when we are denying so many elements of our own understanding of who we are. We are denying even the ownership of the mess that we are creating. We're like, oh, no, I'm not messy. I'm not creating any mess. Of course you're, buddy. That's fine. That's entirely fine. The muscle needs to stretch and explode up to the point of breaking to be able to grow. chaos is a part of evolution. That's that thing that is completely misunderstood by philosophy, by New Age movement, by mathematics, by physics. The lack of understanding of the science of time, the structure of time, the motion of the Fibonacci sequence, and all that makes people ignorant of that phenomenon. They're like, oh no, I just want stillness. Well, buddy, stillness is boring. It's fucking boring. Just deal with it. Stillness is great. Of course, it's the base of creation, but creation deserves evolution. It deserves motion, and that motion deserves chaos. So, in a way, we need to be thankful for the psychopaths who are doing the dodgy work of inducing pain to the world and creating chaos to the world, because by doing this, they allow us to position ourselves. Do I want to go in stillness, or do I want to embrace chaos? And this is fundamental, because this is an entire a part of the free will. What free will is about is not about, oh, do I want to eat McDonald's or whatever, the fast food, or KFC or whatever. Free will is about, do I want to go towards stillness, or do I want to go towards chaos? And both, we need to embrace both of them with the same courage, because it requires courage to face the chaotic aspect of creation. The same way it requires strength to be able to stretch your body up to the point when you're going to gain muscle and strength. It requires discipline to make yoga and meditation, and that thing is actually going against the natural laziness that structured people, or people who are seeking balance, just want to do. They just want to be doing nothing, but nothing is death. Like, when you're going to lie on the ground, you're going to have eternity to do nothing. Well, by the way, I don't believe that at all. I believe that when you die, you're just going to jump into another creation. That's it. But if you want to believe that you need a rest for this life, well, rest. That's your problem. But don't complain if you didn't activate a better existence, because the notion of hell and heaven is a very interesting notion coming from religion. Like, they're like, well, we believe that science is ridiculous, but we believe in hyperdimensional creation in which time will be disappeared and people will live in eternal happiness. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty scientific statement for something that is just purely religious. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, just replace the notion of heaven into next incarnation. And like, well, if you do something good in this life, in your next incarnation, you're going to come back into heaven, which is a place when you're going to have happy people, knowledge, health, security, love, emotions, positive things, and you're going to live a beautiful life forever and ever and ever, generation after generation, life after life. And if you do a dodgy work here, if you work selfishness, if you privilege yourself over others, or others over yourself, like, it's always a balance. Like, it's not I'm giving everything to the others or everything about myself. It's about finding the fine tune between what I gain from others and what I give to others. If you don't respect that law, if you only take, oh, it's not me, or it's all others, no matter which extreme you're choosing, you create disruption, and that disruption is producing chaos, and that chaos is inducing hell. That's what it means. It's not, again, rocket science. It's fucking simple. Excuse my French. I'm French, by the way. So, you there?
I'm here, bro. I'm here all the way, right on the edge of my seat. Trust me. Okay, so would it be fair to say, would it be correct to say that we are all co-creators with each other? Whether it's an evil government, whether it's an evil individual, whatever we want to put it, we're all co-creators with the good, the bad, and the ugly all at once, in a sense.
First of all, we need to understand that notion of good and bad is entirely subjective. I mean, negativity, like destruction. Let's use destruction, for example. Destruction is bad. Oh yeah, are we sure of that? Are you aware that every single second there's billions of cells which are destroyed into your body right now, and that without that you will not be alive, you will not exist, because that destruction is a fundamental aspect of creation, that you have to die at that version of yourself that was, so therefore you can reborn and rebirth at that new version that of yourself that will be. Like, if the cells of your body doesn't die and rebirth, There's no existence. There's no experience. It's entirely a part of the deal. It's time to grow. Like this idea that destruction is bad and that construction is good. I mean, like just try to construct cells in a irrational way into your body, and you'll see how your body is going to cope. It's called a cancer. That's irrational construction that never dies. That's called cancer. Are you sure that this is something that you want? Are you sure that construction is really the ultimate goal? Or do we need to have a balance between that which needs to die and that which needs to reborn? Is it not a more healthy philosophy than judging between, oh, you create destruction or you create construction, so it's good? No, it's a balance. There needs to be. So you need to have evil and you need to have good people. You need to have people that destroy and people that create. And the enemy is the judgment. The enemy is the belief that, oh, you were right to construct that stuff there, even if it actually rip apart the whole ecosystem and everything, and you were wrong to destroy those people, those things there, except that because this is happening, then there's migration moving, then there's a different order coming in different places that creates something bigger. It's again the loss of the big picture that create the suffering. Like, oh, the Second World War was a drama. Oh, it was horrible. Yes, but it teaches us a fucking lesson. Don't act stupid. Stop listening to people who tell you to die for a cause. Get empowered. Do not hurt the weak people. Protect the innocent. Do not attack the vulnerables. That's the lesson that we had to learn. And do not trust yourself. That's the biggest lesson that we have to learn. Don't believe that you are going to do good because you believe that what you do is the ultimate truth. Doubt of yourself, doubt of your own capacity to decide whether something is good or not, because you could be surprised of what you could find. Like the Germans were believing that what they were doing was right. They were believing the same way Al Qaeda today believe that what they do is right. The same way people believe that Clinton is a good person or Trump is an asshole, or whatever. It's a belief. The truth is that we have no idea. We have no idea if something is fundamentally true, good or bad in the long term. We don't know. We just have to trust creation and believe and hope that creation is going to take care of us. Well, the empowerment I want to bring to people is the realization that there's an order in creation. If there's an order in creation, then therefore we can just sit down a little bit and relax and be like, okay, there's an order. So what does it mean? It means, first of all, that coming from a space of fear that there could be an order is something that shouldn't exist anymore in your existence, which also means that no matter what happened in your life, you have the responsibility to embrace it no matter what. Why? Because every time you're going to refuse to embrace any event that comes in your life, you're going to create a resistance. And resistance is going to produce pain. Because resistance, when you take, for example, a cable, an electric cable, and you just make it as straight as you can, and you send electricity through it, what is happening? Resistance. It gets hot. And heat is a way that energy is dissipating itself into creation. But why is it happening? Because you are inducing an energy that is fundamentally vortex, in a sense, into a straight line. So if you put a vortex into a straight line, what's going to happen? Every time the vortex is going to try to move through that straight line, it's going to oppose a resistance. And this is what we translate into heat and pain. Same thing in your life. If you do not embrace whatever chaos comes in your life, then you are opposing a resistance to it. And by opposing a resistance to it, you make it painful. It wasn't originally painful, but you made it painful because of your fear that something could go wrong in creation, which is ridiculous. How things could go wrong in creation? We can make mistakes. Mistakes is an entire part of creation. Okay, by the way, mistakes is never real mistakes. It's just an experience, and your mind will decide to take this experience on board or not. A cell never make a mistake. A cell become what it has to become because it has to. We have that thing, the human consciousness has that thing that has that free will. We can choose to follow order or to follow chaos, and that's the mission that we have here right now. So one of our mission is to bring that chaos because we are that living species that walk on the horizon. We are between the stars and the earth. We are walking on the horizon. Our job is to balance constantly that which come from above to below, and that which come from below to above, and allow that flow of energy to constantly move through us. So our goal is not to judge what we're here to do. Our job is to do what we are meant to do, no matter how horrible it can look sometimes, no matter how much moral or immoral or ethic or non-ethic is it looking like. And I know it's bloody difficult, and don't get me wrong, it's even painful for me. It's not because I know more than it make it easier. It's actually make it more difficult when I'm in chaotic situation like the one that I'm currently right now. I'm in a very, very, very chaotic things. But you know what? When I wake up in the morning, most of the time I have a big smile because I'm like, fuck, I mean, probably the most chaotic aspect of my life since the last probably 20 or 30 years. And it just excites me. It excites me. I'm about to lose my family. I don't have a job. I'm lost in the middle of nowhere. I have potential going all over the place, but nothing concrete is happening. And I'm like, just exciting about, okay, what is going to happen? Because the level of chaos that I'm going through right now is going the inverse reciprocal of the amount of amazingness that I'm going to reach in the near future if I only do what I have to do. And that's the harder things, knowing what you have to do, like being true to yourself, knowing that, like being in line with yourself, and do what has to be done, which is very, very difficult between what you want and what has to happen. That's that fine line that needs to be constantly questioned and challenged every time. I want to follow orders, but in the meantime, that's not what I have to do. I have to challenge those orders. How do I find that fine-tuned balance between what my ego, my cells, my body want to do, and what needs to happen, and finding that fine-tune between order and chaos? That's what I found the harder things.
Roman, as always, you were really bringing it, and I knew that this interview is going to be like you were really going to bring it. You're smashing, you're ripping to pieces things like the old thinking, the old paradigm, or whether it's science, whether it's the new age spirituality, whether it's all of this, you're really tying it in together. Do you believe that people like yourself and others who are kind of transitioning out of that paradigm, I seem to see that a lot of people are going through a chaotic period at the moment, and it seems like it's not coincidence because it just keeps happening. And do you believe that there's anything to that?
Do I believe what?
Do you believe that there's anything to that? A lot of people that are in positions where they are questioning the old paradigm and coming into this new paradigm, whether they're as active as you are and understand it to the level that you do, or whether they're just doing the same thing but in their own lives, just at home, just rethinking everything, just trying to get their head around, for instance, information you're giving away today on this live cast. A lot of the people that are open to it seem to be going through a very chaotic period in their lives right now. Do you think that there's something to that?
Sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Something to that. Something of what to what?
Do you think that there's a reason for that, or do you think that it's just randomness? That it's just because, I know you, I know other people, like.
Man, I just spent the last half an hour saying that believing that randomness exists is a disease. I just spent the last half an hour explaining that there's a bloody order in creation and it cannot be denied. So therefore, randomness cannot be possible. So of course, what is going on is happening for a reason. Nothing can ever happen without a reason. It's our mind that do not recognize that possibility, that make it difficult and make it painful. It's the mind that wants to see, oh yeah, the doubt, the fundamental doubt that maybe, just maybe there would be not an order, and say, well, if there was not an order, then therefore you would not be. That's as simple as that. Do you recognize your own existence as a mind, as a consciousness, as an intelligence? Yes or no? Yes. So therefore there's an order. Stop doubting about it. This is a profound disease that we need to address. So yes, of course there's an order. So if there's an order, then therefore everything that is going on, including the chaos that some people are experimenting right now, is happening for a reason. And you don't have to understand that reason. That's fine. I mean, we had that conversation, brother, many times already. When we getting back into that saying, oh, if someone is hurting someone of my family, would I be able to accept it? Would I be able to forgive? Would I be able to that? And say, well, that's going to be your choice. If you decide to not accept creation, you're just going to make it painful. That's it. But if you need to live a painful experience, that's your problem. And again, this is the resistance of the angle of the square that is hitting against the curve. It's the energy that is spiraling into a straight line that is basically hurting something that is not naturally aligned. So instead of judging, is it better to be round or to be square? You're like, okay, how can I just adapt and be square sometimes and be circle some other time? Like being circle is being flexible and being malleable and do not oppose any resistance. And being square is being crystallized. And it's not a coincidence that a crystal is actually square geometry. It's a straight line. It has like that straight thing. It's crystallized. Okay, that crystallized aspect of things is stable. It's still. It's resisting to the motion of time and energy through it. And on the other side, you have the organic. The organic doesn't stay long. Like, look at how a tree can deteriorate and disappear. Just put a crystal in the ground, come back in 10 years, and the crystal would not have moved. It would stay the same. Put a tree inside the earth, and you come back, it's going to become like billions of cells and microbiotes and all that. Like, so you have that mechanic that people don't seem to understand. They don't understand that there's an order, and that order is mixed of chaos and order and balance. So as I said, yes. Do you want to be always a curve? Do you want to be always a square? If you choose that, 50% of the time you're going to be in pain, 50% of the time you're going to be in line. So it's much better to be constantly oscillating between both. Sometimes being flexible, sometimes being crystallized. And the harder things, which I mentioned just before, is to choose when to do it. It's very, very complicated. Sometimes I need to put myself before the world. And sometimes I need to put the world before myself. When to do it, how to do it. I don't have to know when to do it, how to do it. I just have to believe and trust and know deep inside of myself that there's an order that is much, much bigger than me. And what I try to do for the last 6-7 years is to educate people on that, using many tools, using philosophy, using arithmetic, using physics, using alchemy, using science, because the same truth has to be true every single way of creation. There's laws. You have the laws of attraction, you have the laws of gravity, then you have principle above. You have the laws, you have principle, and then you have the law. Are you familiar with that structure and architecture? What are the laws? What are the principles? And what is the law? Are you familiar with that?
We've touched on that. Can you go into that a little bit?
So laws are epiphenomenon of principles, and principles is what I teach for the last 8 years. Like it's based on the hermetic laws, the hermetic principles. Hermetism is that concept that means that there are principles that are sealed in creation in such a hermetic way that nothing can ever change them. And I know this drives people mad. So how the hell would it be possible that there would be some law, some principle that can never, ever, ever, ever be challenged by creation? This is just a fundamental idea that most of people struggle with, because they want to believe that there's randomness, because they want to believe that there's no order. Why? Because therefore they will have to re-educate themselves entirely. Therefore, they will have to take responsibility for what's going on. And we don't want that. We just want to say, no, I'm not involved in that shit. That's not me. I'm doing the good thing. Well, buddy, sometimes you have to do some dodgy stuff. Sometimes you have to speak badly. You have to behave badly in order to bring back something that is a greater good for everyone. And it's just because we're ignorant of that we don't understand it. So there are 8 principles: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, cause and effect, rhythm, gender, polarity, and care. 8 principles. Those principles are all emerging from one single law, the law with a capital L, that one that is transcending everything, that are making those 8 principles existing, which are creating all the laws that we're expressing in creation. And that ultimate law is called solve and coagula in Latin, which in English means dissolve and coagulate, separate and recombine, dissolve and recreate, die and rebirth. That ultimate law, solve and coagula in alchemy, dissolve and coagulate, dissolve and recreate, separate and reunify, is the ultimate law that will never, ever, ever be transcended in creation. If science were just capable of simply admitting it, that will be an earthquake in our civilization. Guys, calm down. We finally found the law that explains everything in creation. Everything in creation needs to dissolve and reunify. How complex it is, how difficult it is to understand. You were born, you were one cell, and then you expanded into a human, and then you degrade until you're going to go back into a cell. A heart, what is a heart? Expanding, contracting. What is a cell? Expanding, contracting. Everything separate and reunify. What the mind is doing. Why do we have 2 brains, 2 hemispheres? To be able to take what has been separated into oneness. Why? Because creation is dissolving, so your mind can coagulate. Ideas, experience, emotions, concepts, and all that. Dissolve, this is what creation does. Coagulate, this is what your brain, your mind, your body is doing. An experience is a coagulation. It's a reunification of a multiple level of experience. And if you want that coagulation to be alchemical, it needs to be holistic. That's why digital is not holistic, because it removes a whole aspect of creation. That's why refining something is not holistic. And that's why sugarcane produces sugar. Sugarcane is alchemical. Sugar is non-alchemical. It's a drug. It's a danger. It's as addictive as cocaine. Coca leaf is holistic. It's alchemical. Your body will alchemize it and enrich. The same with cannabis. The same with many things. But if you purify and synthesize it and remove the holistic aspect of it, then therefore it becomes dangerous. Okay, same thing with mathematics. Decimal system is a disease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. 10 is the first octave of 1. It's 1 and 0. After do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, you have again do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. You don't have another music sequence. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. It's just harmonic, getting back again and again and again and again. I don't have 10 fingers. I have 5 and 5. And 5 plus 5 doesn't equal 10. It equals 1. At the octave of 1. 1 and 0. And then 11, 1 and 1, 2, the first octave of 2. And then 12, 1 and 2, 3, the first octave of 3. And it's only because we don't see that, we don't understand that, because we've been brainwashed to look at creation in a very, very, very narrow perspective. We cannot see it. And it's really painful to watch, because the solution is so simple. We have to change our perspective. So to your question about what is good, what is bad, do people go through chaos or order and everything? The answer is always the same. Yes, there's an order. Yes, they're going through chaos and order, and it's good. It's good. It's good to go through chaos. It's good to go through order. And when both of them are happening, just be grateful. Just be grateful for both, for the order, for the chaos, because both of them are here to teach you something and to enrich the experience.
Okay, I have 2 questions. The first one is what you were just sharing there. You spoke about the Hermetic principles, the Hermeticism. You spoke about alchemy. Is this what people refer to as divine law, natural law?
They are going beyond natural laws. The principles are beyond the natural laws. Yeah, the laws of man are permanent. They are impermanent. The principles are permanent. They are sealed. That's why they are hermetic. Hermetic mean that cannot be changed. No matter, you can roll on the ground and deal with it your entire existence. You cannot transcend them. You have to take them inside, digest them, and deal with it. And above those principles, you have the law of dissolve and coagulate, that the Tao actually indeed did in through the yin yang concept. It's like, well, there's blackness on one side, there's whiteness on the other side. But if you look inside, you actually find that dot of blackness into the whiteness and that dot of whiteness into the blackness, and show how the Fibonacci curve in the middle is connecting that mix between those two energies. Yes, everything is said into that what simple symbol. Everything is said, yes. And your job is to embrace both.
Okay. My second question is, you mentioned that we've been brainwashed, and that led from some sharing on the decimal system. You spoke about our two hands. You spoke about the decimal system in quite a negative way. And then about a minute or two later, you said we're being brainwashed. Can you unpack that a little bit more? What do you mean by how we've been brainwashed or limited in how we see, how we think in reference to that?
So the decimal system is coming from the root decimate. Decimate means separating. So it's actually a way to quantify creation through separating, isolating elements from their context. And it's not good or bad, by the way. It's just, it becomes good or bad if it becomes the unique way to look at it. So if you only believe that there's only one way to quantify reality through the imperial or decimal, by the way, like both of them are right and wrong at the same time. Basically, decimal is the science of the straight line. Okay, that's very simple. It's just measuring straight. It's dividing by 5 patterns, which is creating that subdivision that is ordered, that's structured. On the other side, you have the imperial system. The imperial system is based on fraction. So fractions are not really useful if you want to measure a straight line, but it's very helpful if you want to measure curve, okay? Because everything can be subdivided into a curve. So it depends. Are you using straight line or curve? If you need to build a house in straight line, if you want, not you need, if you want to build a house in straight line, it will be more useful to use the decimal system. If you want to build a house in curved, then it will be much more easier to use imperial. That's why we use imperial for diameters of tubes and section of thing, because it makes more sense. Or you can actually use the diameter, which is the straight line of the tube, and use the decimal for that. So they are just two sides of the same coin again, but they are creating a system by itself which is there to measure and segment reality, where there's another aspect of it which we call music. Music is a self-propagate concept that just create and self-perpetuate through harmonics. So when I'm saying that after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, we actually have again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, at the next octave, I'm actually implanting in people's mind the possibilities that you could actually look at numbers, and especially decimal system, as a music system, and that suddenly numbers become music notes. By the way, some people have played the Fibonacci sequence in music and pi music and creating like different oscillations based on these harmonic things. Guess what they found? They found music that you find in classic music. They found patterns that you find in classic music. And it's not complicated. You just reduce the number into its digital roots. 12 become 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 equal 3, so it's an octave of 3. 37, 3 plus 7, 10, which is 1, so it's an octave of 1. And 1 can be associated to A, for example, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you can start to create music based on this pattern. And suddenly realize that, oh, well, if you take a constant like root square of 2 or root square of 5 or root square of 6, and you're starting to put music notes compared to those numbers, you actually create music that are surprisingly connected to something that is inherent to ourselves. Because numbers are not what we think they are. They're not just immaterial aspect. They are a part of creation as well. They are unique in their geometry, in their symbol expression, like letters, but they are infinite in their expression, like letters in a way, except that letters cannot be combined together to create infinite. They can be combined if you want to create infinite amount of combination of words, but the meaning that is emerging from the words needs to be learned, and has actually been lost. Where with the mathematics, the meaning is coming from the accumulation of numbers. But if we do not see numbers the way they are, which is basically that the notion of zero and comma are purely arbitral. I made a video last week which was saying, well, from a human perspective, a human is tens of thousands of billions smaller than the universe. Fair enough. But from a human perspective, a human is 10,000 billions bigger than a cell, than a molecule. But from a molecule perspective, a human is 10,000 billion times bigger than them. And from the universe, a human is 10,000 billions smaller than it. So what this notion of zeros and comma mean? It means absolutely nothing. Nothing. If you are looking from the perspective of the universe, like I'm just a cell. If I'm looking, if I'm looking from the perspective of a molecule, I am huge. But that notion doesn't make any difference. It's scalar fractal harmonics. So when you are, for example, I'm taking an example, like you are one cell. That cell split into two, and then two split into four, and four split into eight, and eight split into 16. But 16 is what? Is 1 plus 7. 1 and 7 is 1 plus 6. 1 plus 6 equals 7. 7 is a harmonics of 7. It's the first harmonics of 7, 16. 16 and 16, 32. 3 plus 2 equals 5. And 32 and 32 equals 64. 64 is 6 plus 4, 10, which is 1. So you go back to 1. So one cell split into 2, split into 4, split into 8, split into 16, which is 7, split into 32, which is 5, and 32 and 32, 64, so go back into 1. After 6 iteration, after 6 duplication, you get back to 1. That's what the Bible was saying when they were saying that God created the universe in 6 days. And on the 7th days, he got a rest. Why? Because he moved into the next iteration. Well, what if human was that thing that is between the universe and the atomic level, and we are just the point of reference from where creation is expanding or contracting? What if we were just in that middle point? We are that animal that doesn't operate or move on the horizontal plane. It moves on the vertical plane. It's not a tree anymore. It's moving with its roots inside of himself. It's not an animal. It doesn't eat and reproduce horizontally. It actually separates vertically. It's in between. It's between the plant and the animal. It's between the spirit and the mineral. It's that species that is there to create the boundary between the sky and the earth. How complicated it is to understand. That's what drives me crazy. Like, this is so obvious. It's like the notion of man and woman. How complicated it is to see that woman is characterized by a negatively charged sexual organ. What I mean by negatively charged is that it's imploding. A vagina is imploding. It's an energy that comes from the outside to the inside. It's an imploding energy. It's getting into oneness, into unity, into reunifying. Okay? Remember, solve coagula. And what do you have on the other side? You have a penis. And what is a penis? It's coming from the inside out. It's dissolving. It's expanding. It's growing. It's getting out from the inside out. It's centrifugal. How complicated it is to see that there's no fundamental difference between a man and a woman, except that women are negatively charged in the sexual organ when men are positively charged in the sexual organ, and women are positively charged in their chest, and men are negatively charged in their chest. How difficult it is to see that there's no fundamental difference, that we think that women are more sensitive than men, only because their purpose in creation is to manifest, to concatenate, to reunify, to give birth. That's one of their functions, but has nothing to do with sensitivity or emotions or anything like that. Sensitivity and emotion is due to long hairs. The long hairs, that's it. Because they have been admitted as allowed in our society to have long hairs more than men, they develop more antennas. They have a nerving system that is longer. Let a man grow beard and they would become as sensitive as women. We know that. In the archetype, like in the archetype of Zeus, Zeus has a long beard and woman has long hairs. And this is a symbol of wisdom. Why? Because the more you accumulate information through your bead, through your hairs, the more you become holistic. You receive holistic approach of creation. That's in the psychological aspect, and that's why wisdom comes after puberty. Puberty is the moment when you're coming from the outside in into the inside out, when you're starting to open to the world, and then suddenly your hairs are growing, so your your tentacles are going out, so you can actually connect with more information through the trine ray field of information, past, future, present. Because all that is field that are crossing matter, and you need that antenna to be there, to that straight line that be there and receive this constant information and bring them back into your nervous system, so it comes into your awareness. How complicated it is. Sorry, I'm getting too excited.
No. I was just thinking I better start letting my nose and ear hairs grow out more so I can put some more antennas out there, maybe grow a beard or something, because like up here there's no connection there.
But it's serious. It's a serious thing. Yes. You should definitely let your beard grow, because this is wisdom. This is how we gather information. It has been proven through Second World War that there's this famous story where Americans were using Indian Native American trappers to go in the Second World War to help to prevent attack, because they had that sixth sense. And after a few months going in France or in Europe, they actually send them back to America. They're like, you're fucking useless. What happened to them? They basically shaved them. Every time they were going to the Marines, they were cutting their hairs. And the Indians lost their sensitivity. They were not capable of feeling things, receiving information and everything. They were just like losing the capacity to tune into information and intuition and thing. It's again, not rocket science. We also have that in the myth of I forgot his name. Jason. Is it Jason? The myth of Jason, who had his strands from his hairs, and like it's a
Hercules.
myth, of course. But
was that Hercules?
No, it wasn't Hercules. I think it was Jason. I forgot. Anyway, yeah. Well, sensitivity, wisdom, capacity to tune into inner self is directly proportionate to your capacity to tune information from the outside in. So hairs are beneficial for that. And that's why animals are so in tune with nature. That's why cats, that's why dogs, because they are constantly connected. We have lost those hairs in most of the part of our body. Samson, thank you. Samson. We have lost that connection with our body, with because we have half of hairs and half of not hairs. Why? Because our job is to be order and chaos. Animals are profoundly ordered. They're here to respect the laws. They're here to be an aspect of creation that is there to do what they have to do. We have that bloody free will. We have that bloody free will that gives us the opportunity to serve order and creation, or serve chaos and destruction. And unfortunately, we shouldn't feel guilty about it. We shouldn't feel that this is good or this is bad, because death, like, for example, I had that conversation recently with a vegan, and the vegan was like, oh yeah, well, you dodgy meat eater, blah, blah, blah. How dare you? I say, okay, yeah, well, that's an interesting perspective. So according to you, you believe that consciousness resides in animals. I say, of course, they're conscious beings, they're sovereign, blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, what about plants? Do you think that plants don't have consciousness? Do you think that plants are not sovereign beings? They're like, well, yeah, they must have also consciousness. Oh, okay, so how dare you eating plants? How dare you sacrificing sovereign, living, sentient beings to nourish your body? How dare you doing this? You're doing it because life is something that is transmitted. Life is an electric charge. Life is energy, okay? And that energy needs to be transferred from one body to the other body. Okay, plants, what they do, they just take light from the sun and they consolidate that light and trap that light into their substance. So therefore, animals can come and eat that plant, which is basically the light that is inside, and transfer that light, energy, electricity into their body, so their body can continue to exist. And then carnivores are coming and do the same. And then humans are coming and doing the same. What What the point? What's the point? Oh, do you think plants deserve less to be eaten than animals? Why? Because like animals can suffer? What, do you think plants can't suffer maybe? How do you know that? Is it true? Is it a fact, or is it a belief? So I was just getting into that conversation about like that consciousness, energy, propagation, responsibility, and again we're going back into that necessary aspect of embedding order and chaos. When a lion eats a gazelle, the lion doesn't ask, "Oh, do I participate to the destruction of the universe?" No, it just survives. Why? Because his life is as important as the death of the gazelle. Okay, and because life and death is nothing more than energy moving through creation. The sun is generously giving us energy every day. Okay, it's just bloody giving us energy. Plants are trapping a part of that energy. We are trapping a part of that energy, and it's not enough to maintain us. So we need to take the energy that is trapped into different aspects of creation to maintain our life. Should we feel guilty about it? No. Why? Because there's another possibility in that thing, which is that we didn't destroy the plant. We actually alchemize the plant and transmute the plant into a part of who we are. We allow the plant to become me. That's what eating is about. Eating is not about destroying something. This is the scientific aspect of it, because they don't understand anything about anything. It's not about destroying, it's about transmuting something that wasn't me into something that will be me forever and ever and ever. If a plant allow me to change a pattern in my body, that pattern, I'm going to keep it until I die. And maybe I'm going to live with that consciousness after I die. So eating something is maybe not as bad as we think it is. It could actually be an opportunity for a little leaf to get access to eternity through my body. And that changed the whole perspective. That person was really upset when I told her, because she could feel that there was a perspective behind it. There was a judgment that, oh, eating animals is bad, where eating plant is good. See, where this is coming from? Where this is coming from? Like we don't understand. We don't know what eating actually mean. Have you heard about breatharian? They don't eat anything. They're still alive. They just eat directly from the sun. They take sun energy and they synthesize sun energy into their body. So they don't need to eat. Well, is there someone one day that's going to say, how dare you taking the sun energy and stealing it from the grass that was behind you, and you actually eat the sun that the plant was about to eat? Like, how pathetic it is. How ridiculous it is. But that's the world, the miserable world we live in, where we are governed by the dumbest, and we are surrounded and humiliated by the mass of ignorance. And it's time to stand up.
What's something that we can do to stand up? When you say it's time for us to stand up?
Well, just stand for what is right. Just fucking open your mouth. Stand. Do not be afraid of moving people around. Do not be afraid of challenging people. Like, just express your truth. You own it to yourself. You own it to the universe. There's a divine order. And if you're understanding something that is precious and that makes sense to you, that is bigger than yourself, you have the duty to share it, the same way I'm doing it right now. I don't want to be worshipped. I don't want to be idolate. I just want people to be inspired by what I do. And I want people to do the same. Just spread your truth. And don't be afraid of making mistakes, because every time you're going to make a mistake, it's the universe readjusting the curve or the straight line. Oh, buddy, you're just a tiny little bit too much of a square right now. Just polish yourself a little bit. Just go back into the curve for a little while. And then you can actually go back into the straight line later. You know, that's what the universe is doing. It's gentle. It's gentle. And if something really needs to happen, it's going to be a little bit less gentle. It's going to be a bit tougher and tougher and tougher until you're going to surrender. Until you're going to be like, fine, my job is not to hold thing. I'm not a capacitor of information. I am a vector of information. My goal is to be straight, my feet into the ground and my hairs into the stars. My goal is to allow energy to flow from the up and upside down and downside up. Like that, my job is not to take the energy of the stars and hold it and say, "Oh, it's mine. This is mine." That's the pathological ego stuff. I'm not saying lose everything, of course. Retain what is necessary. Do not hold what is not necessary. Just carry what is there.
Roman, talk to us a little bit about the interaction and relationship between human value, time, and money.
I hope people are ready for this one. All right, so
give it to us, brother.
The warm up is good. So let's dive. All right, so the body is that vector of energy that is there to allow energy to come through. The same way a tree is there to do exactly the same thing. It just have that vertical mission where the humans can also have it horizontally. That's why we can move in space, and tree cannot move in space. They are still in space, but they exist through time much longer than us. But human can move into space and do not remain in time as long. Under their form, like it's the price to pay for chaos. Having a body is chaotic. Trees, which are the ultimate expression of plants. By the way, there's a hierarchy into trees, the same way there's hierarchy into mammals and animals, between flowers and grass and bush and plant and trees. There's a hierarchy, and we are the higher expression of the animal kingdom, the same way the trees are the highest expression of the vegetal kingdom. Not higher in terms of value, it's higher in terms of mission. Like our mission is as important as the other, but we have a different mission than the grass. The same way bacteria and insects have a different mission than the human. They have a different. It's not better or worse. It's not more or less important. Every aspect of creation is as important, but they have a different purpose. So and the destruction and existence of one or the other is not more or less predominant. Both and everything has to be respected. That's a law. We cannot say human has to be existing if it costs the existence of bees or insects. That doesn't make any sense. It's like saying the trees needs to exist, but we need to get rid of all the grass on earth. It doesn't make any sense. It's not coherent in any way, shape, or form, because without the grass, there would be no trees. There's a correlation. The same way without insect or without bees, there would be no human. Okay, very simple again. So we are vectors of energy. The energy is flowing through us the same way trees are doing it. We are doing that through space. Trees are doing that through time. So we have different purposes, different mission. Money, in my understanding, is the archetype of time. So I spent many, many years understanding money, because for many years I couldn't get it. I said, what money is. And there was always that axiom: time is money, money is time. I said, okay, what it means. First of all, what we need to understand is that space is an illusion. Space do not exist as if. Space could not exist outside of time. We have the illusion to believe that space exists and that space is moving through time, where the truth is that time exists and space is happening into time. Some people believe that time does not exist. I'm like, well, that's an interesting belief. The consciousness that has the conscious observation of existing, which has nothing to do with this tangible aspect of space, can explore the expression and the awareness of existing through time. Not the measurement of time, by the way. Like, we need to really segment the measurement of time, the quantification of time through a clock. A clock is measuring time. I'm not talking about the measurement of time. I'm talking about the experience of time. We believe that we are space objects moving through space. Wait a second, buddy. How would you move through space if there was no time? How can you move into something if you don't have time? How can you have depth in space if you do not have time? How time can actually propagate into space to allow you to give the illusion of the depth if there's no time? There's a fundamental mistake in that aspect. Time is the fundamental substance of creation. I believe that the true name of time is ether. I believe that ether is eternity. Eternity, ether. It's that substance that is flowing, that field that is crossing from past, future, to give the illusion of interference pattern in the present. But that field, the real name of that field is etheric field. The etheric field of the past and my etheric field of the future are combining each other to create this illusion of separation that we are calling present, that we are calling space, that we are calling matter. So if time is everything that is, and space is just a byproduct of time, then therefore, what is money? Money is time. Okay, what it means? It means that time is the ultimate currency that is. What are you guys paying right now? You are paying attention with the sea of current of energy. The sea of current, the current sea, the sea of current of energy is that ocean of field that is moving into the illusion of space-time, which is, I believe, only time. There's only time moving, flowing, giving us that illusion of cascade. You know, like it's like being on a boat and navigating. Like from your perspective, you're not moving, but everything around you is moving. Yeah, well, because you are floating on time. The same way our bodies is floating into time, but we don't know that. The same way a fish doesn't know that he's surrounded by water. We do not know that we are surrounded by time. Why? Because we are time. What is consciousness? Time. How do we define that? How do we know that? Because I cannot be who I was one fraction of a second before. I can only be present. I cannot be what I will be in a fraction of a second in the future, or fraction of a second I was in the past. I can only be right now. I can only be right now. So therefore, the essence of who I am is time. Time moving through the illusion of separation between the time that is inside and the time that is outside. So if I understand that my essence is time, and then I am a time-traveling machine, living the experience of being into that vessel called a body, leaving the illusion of an identity called Roman, leaving the illusion of living in a creation called the earth, which is nothing more than an illusion of space made by the substance of time, creating this interference pattern. If I can be aware of that thing, then therefore I can suddenly starting to not be attached to the consequences of how time is arranging itself. So why did I connect that to money? Because initially, like, how do you hold value in time? There's only two things that can hold value: the earth, the land, and gold. Why gold? Because gold is the only substance that do not deteriorate in time, through time. Gold can hold value. Why? Because it doesn't oppose any resistance to time. This is why gold is a superconductor. That's why energy can flow through time, because energy is time, by the way. The substance of an atom, the substance of an electron or photons, or call it whatever you want, the substance of it is time. That's why it's characterized by energy. Why? Energy is moving. It's something that is moving. How do you move? Through time. So instead of wasting our time trying to find the name of the space that is moving into time, who cares? It is time moving. That's it. Call it electrons, call it photons, call it whatever names you want to call it. The substance of what it is time. The same way my substance as a consciousness embedded into that body, incarnated into the carne of that flesh, is time, traveling, living that experience of being Roman in this life, speaking to the illusion of the separation of talking to Michael, which has the illusion of being Michael identity, where, sorry buddy, you're only time. You are time, living the experience of living the illusion of being Michael. But you are not Michael. Michael is a fiction. It's a creation. It's a blueprint of time, a remanence of time in the Akashic records. That's what it is. The substance of it is time. And it's the same source as me. So we are currently talking to each other. Sorry, like it's just that monologue between that aspect that ignore that fact into that aspect that is a little bit more aware of it. And my job is to pour that acknowledgement into your consciousness. You're like, oh yes, I knew it already, but thanks for the reminder. That's what we do. That's what we all do by connecting. So the correlation that there is between time, money, and space is that the only way time can accumulate and concatenate is through space, indeed, yes, because this is what God does. By the way, what God is time. God is everything that could potentially be except being. Why? Because when God's be, which means that it's coming from the space of infinite potential of everything that could be, or infinite potential of everything that has been, past and future. When God isn't past and future, what does it becomes? It becomes real. It becomes reality. It becomes present. Not under its form of not under its form of potential, but under its form of sorry, I've been into not under its form of potential, but under its fractionate fractal expression. So basically, what is creation? It is God. It is nothing more than God expressed into its fractal expression through the time substance. Time substance. That's what it is. Present is that tangible expression of what God was and what God will be through the past and the future. Except that when God becomes, it becomes present. That's why there's nothing outside of present. That's why quantum physicists who are looking at the particle of God inside matter are doing the same mistake as the religious who are looking for God beyond the clouds, beyond the universe. They're doing exactly the same mistake. They believe that God is outside of creation, where God is in the creation. It is the creation. And it has two aspects of it. It has this non-materialistic potential probability in the future and in the past, that which is not yet, and that which will never be again, past and future. So that's God in its potential, infinite, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, everything that could ever be. And when it becomes that experience of that so-called space through the subdivision fractal expression of everything that could be, except it's become for a fraction of a second, that give us this illusion of experience. And I know it's a bit complicated to get it, but anyway, end of the story for the God's definition. The relationship between value, God, and money is that money is what symbolizes time. How? Time is what consciousness will use to manifest something. If I want to manifest an apple juice or orange juice in my hand, I have two options. I can go into the ocean, collect the resources, transform the sand into glass, create a glass, then go into another place, plant a seed, wait for time, have an orange tree, take that orange tree, collect the resource, create whatever stick or knife or whatever, cut the orange tree into, or the orange into, press the orange and have that orange juice. That is going to take a whole amount of time. Otherwise, I can use my money, buy a glass, buy a juice, and put them together and have my glass juice. So basically what money does is accelerating manifestation. It's an accumulator of time. It's a time accumulator. And the problem with money is that we are worshipping the container of time, because time isn't substance, it's an energy. It's an energy that just wants to go from A to B, to flow. That's why the cash needs to flow. Okay? But when you contain the time into a container like a bank account or like something, you crystallize time, which is the worst thing you can do with it, because it basically accumulates and resonates and increase and increase and increase and increase until it would just explode. And this is what we are living now. We're living in a world where so many people, so the richest, are accumulating fictional time, debt. Debt is a fictional time. It's a negative time, which is impossible by sense. Time cannot be negative, cannot be negative. It constantly flow. That's the only thing that time does. It constantly move, cannot be stopped, cannot be accumulated until it will dissipate. That the battery can accumulate energy, but it will not be able to accumulate eternally. Energy will slowly dissolve, because this is again that principle of solvent coagula. So time can be stored, but can only be stored a short amount of time until you release it. Otherwise, it will just destroy you. It will just make you believe that you're powerful because you have the illusion of containing time. Well, buddy, you are time. You cannot contain time. Your only duty is to serve time, is to allow time to flow, is to allow time to be expressed and to be manifested, not to contain it, not to hold it, my precious. Like by doing this, we are retaining time, and we oppose resistance to the natural flow of energy. And this is creating pain. So value is basically how we're going to be able to transmute the expression, the physical, material expression of time into good and services, basically something that is going to provide three fundamental aspects of creation, which is safety, health, and beauty. If we can get access to safety, health, and beauty, we are living in heaven, okay? And we can get access to all that, okay, through time. Time is providing us safety. It's providing us an experience. Health is basically the balance between that which comes in and that which goes out. This is again provided by time. And beauty is the order that is emerging from the geometry of time in creation. So what value is about, it's about getting access to that time energy and being able to funnel it and channel it and focus it into an aspect of creation that will be exchangeable and bringing service to each other. But since the last 50 years or 100 years, we found another way to store time digitally. Digitally would actually mean that time will become immortal and infinite as long as we maintain the system on. Like the reason why earth and gold was the perfect way to store value is because they were resisting to time. Like gold cannot rust, cannot lose its mass when you melt it, can resist to acid and alkaline attack. It actually allow energy to flow through it so well that it represents time by itself. The same way lands, no matter how much hurricane or tsunami are going to invade land, the land will survive to time. Okay, that's why they hold value. But now we're moving into a space where, through the digital realm, we won't need to actually worry about how we're going to store value, because at the end of the day, value isn't into its container at all. Value is its capacity to manifest. So money is only useful, no matter if it's physical or digital, as long as it will allow the sea of current, the current sea, to flow and to allow us to manifest that which we have in our head into creation. So that's a big piece, I believe, that a lot of people needs to really integrate if we want to challenge our perspective and belief system, and if we also want to build a better future in which we're going to like understand that, yeah, that was a bad mistake, and we perpetuate that mistake for a little while. But it's time for us to move into a cashless and moneyless civilization in which we're basically just going to focus on understanding the laws of creation, how time propagates in creation, so therefore we can use time to serve us and not being entangled into the pain of living into time and being time.
Roman, when you speak about the future and the past coming together to create the present, you're using the terminology interference pattern. I find that very fascinating. Can you explain why you're using that language? Why the present is an interference pattern?
Well, if you just throw a stone into water, into a lake, you're going to see a wave propagation pattern. Now, if you send two stones, you're going to start to see that interference pattern crossing with it and creating that mesh, basically. That theory would mean that the flow of the future and the flow of the past are basically mixing against each other to give that illusion of resistance, three-dimensional resistance. So they're coming from two different angles, 120 degrees from each other, and you have that two waves coming against each other, and that create the third one that come towards and give that three-dimensional experience that we call physicality. Yeah, it's difficult to explain it better than that. I recommend people to go on michaelevents.com and watch a few of his Trine Ray demonstration, which I believe are the best visual, digital representation that I saw that was explaining what I could feel inside of me. Like I really was able to feel that energy coming from those different angles that propel in many quantum field, many quantum way, and produce that that third field that is moving forwards, that give this illusion of presence and space. I cannot explain it better than that without using visuals. Sorry.
So, what are you doing on September the 17th, 18th, and 19th? Are you busy?
I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Okay, if you're free, write those dates down. If you're free on those dates, I've got something for you. All right? It'll be free. Right. You won't have to pay. There's a spot for you on our retreat that's coming up. I'm getting so many messages. I'm getting so many messages, Roman, during this live cast, private messages coming in from all the people that have booked the retreat with me saying, Michael, please, for the love of God, can you get Roman to come to the retreat with us? So I'm asking you now, if you're free the 17th, 18th, and 19th September,
I'll be free.
I'll squeeze you in, brother. It's over here on the Central Coast in a beautiful location and everything. We'd love to have you with us. So if Roman's going to be there, which I think he is, everyone that's on the retreat, you can do your little dance now. He's going to be there. Bro. Oh, my God. I don't even know where to go.
That's why you better interview me every 6 months, because like you should interview me like with smaller lens, because otherwise like there's too much.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I know from the comments and the private messages I'm getting, the audience
and we didn't even talk about the prime numbers. We didn't talk about the geometry. Didn't talk but yeah, basically it's much easier to see the visuals that I'm making, so people can get them much better than expressing them or explaining them. Yeah, it's but yeah, there's so much more. There's so much more coming in, guys. Like just be ready, because it's huge. It's huge.
Now, I think in closing the interview, we're going 2 hours now already. What is a final message that you can leave with the audience in reference to how can they utilize all of this in their own lives right now, and how can they begin the journey into learning and further studying what you're talking about? Where can they connect with you? Are you still offering your online course?
Yeah, of course. The online course is I actually put it on free donations, so people can give whatever resonates with them. First of all, you guys need to be patient. You need to pay attention. Like, time is a currency, and the time and care that you're going to give to truth is basically the time and energy that you have to spend to reprogram yourself. Because basically you accumulated for how many years wrong perspective or belief system that were profoundly detrimental to yourself, and you didn't know it, basically. So it took you many years to figure out that maybe your belief system were not accurate, and maybe the people who certainly did it for your own good didn't do a good job of providing those belief systems. So first of all, you need to be patient with yourself, and you need to be careful for yourself of not not judging, not saying, oh, I wish I knew that before. Everything is perfect. Just fundamentally bring into your awareness and your consciousness the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there's an order, and that everything is fucking perfect. So whatever you starting to resonate with what I just said over the last 2 hours makes sense, because you are currently capable of embracing this. Maybe 5 years ago you were not. Maybe 2 years ago you were not. But right now, if you're still on that call, and if you're still listening to what I'm saying, is that there's something inside of you that says, yes, I got it. Yes, it makes sense. Yes, it resonates with something deep inside of me. I don't fully understand what it is, but that's what it is. So that's, again, the resistance that matter has inherently in its pattern to adapt. Okay, to take again the geometry, you cannot transmute, you cannot square the circle or circle the square instantly. It requires effort. And the best way to do that is to, first of all, getting flexibility in the lines. And this takes time. The flexibility is the belief system, for example. So if you're very narrow in your belief system, and your lines are really firm and not flexible, well, if you have to polish the corners to create a circle, it's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult. So one of the Indian wisdom that I fully understand and fully approve is that that which is inside is like that which is outside, that which is above is like that which is below, which is again one of the principles. And it means that if you want to be flexible, you need to be flexible at every aspect of who you are. You need to be flexible in what you eat. You need to be flexible into what you speak, the way you speak, who you speak to. You need to be flexible in your body. You need to be flexible into your stretching, into stretching your brain, stretching your emotion. You need to be able to explore jealousy, pain, anger, bliss, and contemplate the beauty of each of them. The mistake is to dive into too deep into one and to only privilege one emotions over the others. Anger is not bad fundamentally. Pain is not bad fundamentally. Jealousy is not bad fundamentally. We need a little bit of everything. If you want to make a good meal, you need to have good ingredients, a little bit of everything, and a good mix and a good balance. Okay, that's how a good human being operates, and it's the same law for everything. And how do you going to mix your stuff? The same way you give 10 ingredients to 10 different people, they're going to make 10 different meals. That's your unique blueprint. That's your unique God-giving ability to mix your own experience, your mind, your emotions, your body, and create something that will be unique and that will be your blueprint. So first of all, be patient. Second of all, you can just listen to that interview. I think this interview, I didn't do much interview recently. I think the last time I did an interview was probably 4 or 5 months ago. I did a few lives, but I cannot explore deeply what I just expressed in 2 hours. So I believe it was a lot. It was a lot. Let's be honest, it was a lot. So yeah, like even for me, I'm like, oh shit, I spoke about all those subjects in an hour and a half. That's amazing. But just re-listen to it calmly and try to stop. Like, you listen to 2 or 3 minutes and you stop and you're like, okay, did I really integrated everything that was said in those 2 or 3 minutes? And if there's any question, then just Google it, Google YouTube, or send me messages. If you want to go through a more structured way to learn all those processes, which takes time, like, let's be honest, I didn't happen to know all that thing over time. Like, it took me 11 years, 12 years of journey, or even 40. I just turned 40, maybe 40 years of journey to be capable of understanding what I do understand today, and be able to articulate the way I articulate it, which is my own unique perspective. And I'm not saying I'm right. I may be fundamentally wrong. I'm still waiting for someone that can prove me wrong, but I'm open to it. I'm open to both. I'm open to be fundamentally right and fundamentally wrong, and this is perfectly fine. My perspective is that the more we embrace, the more we zoom out and take on board, the more we are giving back to existence its novelty, like through the awareness of the bigger picture, the bigger picture. And you have 2 ways to do it. You can just integrate more and more and more and more, or you can actually focus into more and more and more and more, and concatenate the same way you can pixelate a painting by turning on little lights that will create an image at the end. So I prefer operating from the inside out, from that more than the outside in. But fundamentally, they are the same principles. So yeah, people can get in touch with me. I put in place a program. Not a program. It's a course that I was giving 3 years ago through seven lessons, and those 7 lessons were slowly bringing you from zombie land into like level 1 of, wow, okay, I now start to see the big picture. So it doesn't require any personal knowledge. It doesn't require any particular skill. It just requires your time and attention. If you can spend that time and attention just for those 6 sessions of an hour and a half each, you will not be the same person. You will not be the same person, because I'm going to show elements of creation. Some of them you already know, some of them you don't, through a very specific perspective. And this perspective will help you to come from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. And when you're going to reach the letter G or H, you're going to feel like, oh, wow, okay, now I'm starting to get vertigo, because my whole perspective on creation is starting to oscillate. What I delivered today was, yeah, as I said, 11 years of research in specific fields. So it's already an end product, but there's a journey, there's a path, and that path I gave it to like free donations. So I think the minimum is $5 per session. So time 7 session, it's $35. Like, that's the investment that is required. If you want to give more, be my guest. But I wanted that thing to be accessible to people. So you can just send me a message. You can find me on Facebook. There's a Roman Light, but I don't want to accept too much people. So you can follow me on Roman Lucian if you want to find me on Facebook.
How do I spell that, Roman?
RIC, Referendum Initiated by the Citizens. This is how I get more of my audience in the Yellow Vest movement and the political spiritual revolution. Otherwise, I also have the Sacred Arithmetic page. So this is where I'm doing all my mathematics and geometry work, Sacred Arithmetic. It's not really working a lot, but just by going on that page and going back into the last 2 or 3 years, you will get a lot of information about that spiritual physics that is unraveling before our eyes, and I'm participating in. So Roman Lucian, RIC, Referendum Initiated by the Citizen, RIC, Referendum Initiated by the Citizens, and Sacred Arithmetic. This is how you can connect with me. And I also have Instagram account as well, but I'm not really social media. I'm not narcissist enough to put pictures every day, and I don't have time for that. So I really need some help. If people want to help me in any ways, I'm never going to decline any help, but I don't have the time and energy to spend into social media and all that stuff. So
is Sacred Arithmetic a website? So www.sacredarithmetic.com?
Facebook. Yeah, there's a website, sacredarithmetic.com, and there's Facebook. Referendum Initiated by the Citizen, Roman Lucian or Roman Light, and the Sacred Arithmetic are 3 Facebook page.
Okay. Do me a favor, straight after this live cast, just put it in the comments section, Roman, so people can find it in case for whatever reason they put a letter wrong or something like that.
Sure.
My brother, wow. This has been incredible. As always, I was hanging on right at the seat of my pants. Thank you so much, Roman. Like, you always rock my world. You know, whenever we hook up, it takes me a few days after I connect with you to absorb, you know, and then even then I feel so like I'm coming into a new world or something. And today was just incredible. So really looking forward to having you with us on the Truth Seeker retreat. So, and of course I'll have you back on maybe when you get this new news that you were talking about.
5G.
Earlier on in the livecast. Yep, that'd be great. I think that's a big one that everyone should learn about.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the different questions that we got from the audience. Sorry if I've been a bit fast, but yeah, that's when I accumulate too much. That's what's happening. When I try to accumulate too much time, that's what's happening, and it's just poof, just like have to go out. I hope I didn't lose too many people, and it's an honor to spread this information and to be a service of to people.
Thank you, Roman, from the bottom of my heart. And I know the audience absolutely loved today's live cast. I'm sure you'll get some messages in the coming days from everyone. And I urge you guys, please, to jump on and do that course. It's you know, the investment in money is so minimal. And, I'm going to jump up and sign up for it straight after this so I can learn it. To all of the audience as well, thank you as always for joining in, being interactive with us and making this such a beautiful experience for myself and for Roman. And until the next one, keep your head up and keep your heart strong. Bye for now.